There we go.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay, now it looks the same.
So this is the very same version. As you can see, I'm running around here on the PC. You can tap on here and run around. A key principle of Albion, you've played it, is that the world provides a bunch of resources. So everything you can see here is something that you can gather. The bushes here also, if I can hit them, yep. Stuff that you can gather from the world.
Okay.
And this is the beginning of the big economy chain, like you've seen it. Basically, it goes gather resources from the world, craft items from them, bring them to market, sell them to other players. Were there markets in the version that you played?
I didn't get that deep into it. I think I played for maybe like 2 hours or something.
Okay.
Ended up getting down by the walls, that kind of thing.
I'll demonstrate this here. So I'm gathering a bit of stone, a little bit of wood. And what I would normally now do is I would go somewhere where I can craft something with it. Unless you're at the very beginning where we have some pre-placed building, later in the game this is always going to be a player-run city. So a player city, for example, here, New Herald Right. I'm just going to teleport there to be fast.
No, you're not, because you wouldn't teleport. Yep. Magic.
So when I would come to the city from, I don't know, one of the entrances here, and what I find in the city is always a bank and a couple of other things and a marketplace. So I could sell my resources here that I gathered, the logs and the stone, directly at the marketplace, only if there's a player buying it though. Otherwise I have to create a sell order, so I'm putting it up for someone else to buy at some later point. So this is player-to-player trade. The marketplace is local. If I go to a different city, I'll have a different market. And so is the bank, by the way. Now, selling resources directly is possible, but it's not always the best thing to do, because players actually want items. So another thing is you can go to a building and craft something out of this. You've seen this, but for that to work, there have to be buildings first. And this is a good example of what's player-driven in Albion. Without players, there are no buildings. So someone has to gather some silver from killing creatures, and then has to buy a plot in the city, in a state, and then has to decide to put a building on it. So there's a bunch of economy buildings that you can build, or military buildings that allow you to craft items. I'm just going to build a workbench, the simplest thing, because I can build it with base materials. So the stone I gathered and the wood I can use here to set up this workbench. It'll take a while. I actually didn't gather enough, so I'm just going to shortcut this.
So do you own that entire plot of land now, and you can build different things on it?
Yeah, I could build different things on this area. The thing is though that I can put a smelter here. That would be another building here.
Yeah.
Now the workbench is just a really starter building where I can build the most basic tools, and I just realized I used all my wood. So I'm just gonna gather some more here, and then I can hopefully quickly make me some tool. I'm missing some stone. Well, in theory I could craft something here, and then I would get the item. As I said, these items can then be sold on markets, and that really drives the player economy, because we always have sinks for these items as well. You lose, like, tools are used over time, they are destroyed, so there's always a need for new tools. You have a lot of players you can sell to. That's a big chunk of it. The other part that I need to explain is the world itself. So when you start the game, you start at one of these landing points, basically as a soldier of fortune coming to Albion, finding a way to become rich and famous and whatnot. And you start out in a safe zone where you cannot really die. Monsters will just knock you down, players cannot attack you, it's somewhat safe, so you can learn the mechanics of the game. But as you go further out into the world and you cross this wall, you end up in a less patrolled area where there's less guards or no guards, and the world is unsafe. Players can attack you here, and fighting creatures is also more dangerous. Why should I go there? Well, because the most interesting resources are up there. It's always a risk versus reward game. You can gather all the materials here, and that will get you so far maybe 20 hours of playing, but at some point you probably want to take a look into the PvP zone. There are things you can do in the safe zone. If you absolutely do not want to engage in PvP, you can keep crafting by buying the materials that come from the PvP zone and just progress in crafting. And you can focus on building up your own player house on your island. The islands you can buy, you can see them here. You can buy them in the player cities. They're an instant housing space where you could set up your home and keep decorating it. So there are some things you can do. But the real Albion happens out in the PvP world, where there's full loot. So if you kill a player, you can take everything they have with them. And there are a lot of reasons to be having stuff with you, because crafting requires always both materials from the safe zone and the PvP zone, at least for high-end items. Which means there's always a reason to transport materials and goods from the safe zone deep into the PvP zone and back. So there'll be transports, people can attack these transports and take their stuff.
When you say transports, is it like a caravan, or is it just players carrying gear, like moving through?
So players can carry a certain amount of gear. Every player has this weight limit, so if I keep gathering stuff, eventually I'll be overloaded and I can't walk anymore. But there is something I have in my inventory that comes to the rescue, that's the ox. The ox is one of the mounts. We have multiple mounts. Horses allow you to travel faster, and oxes allow you to carry more. There's armored horses that allow you to break through enemy lines if you need to. But the ox massively increases your load, and that's basically, I have to pick up the stuff I want to transport and then move this ox through a zone. As you can see, it's not super fast, so it's quite a nice victim. So you typically should be escorting your ox, and we've seen this in the previous alpha test that guilds trying to supply their territories out in the world, organizing caravans of people moving through the world. So as there's two things.
Destiny board inventory here, I think.
Inventory?
Destiny board items.
Destiny board items. Let's stick with the player for a moment. I could go on to guild territories, but there's maybe two things interesting to you. One is, how do I even get better in this game? And one is, what do I even do? So the way you get better in this game is through the Destiny board. Destiny board, you start down here, follow a little bit of a linear path of tasks that is a tutorial, if you've played this. But at some point you reach the central point, and from here it's all up to what you are actually doing in the game. If you're fighting, you will unlock the first fighting node, which allows you access to the first set of novices weapons, which is this list of items. And once you have this unlocked, you can actually equip these items. And then when you fight with those, you will progress further into this. So if you keep fighting with the novice's sword, you'll work towards melee weapons. Then you can get the, I think, journeyman's melee weapons. And if you keep using one of these, for example, a journeyman's axe, you will eventually unlock the further advanced axes down here.
But can you not even equip a weapon until you've got the prerequisite?
Exactly. You cannot equip a weapon unless you have it unlocked on the board. But there is otherwise no real limit to this process. You can unlock all the weapons if you want, if you spend enough time. Same for crafting. Crafting works the exact same way. Initially you can craft a bunch of basic items. If you keep doing things at the forge, then you can start building all the forge items at a medium level. And then if you keep specializing, for example, in making swords, then you can craft the more and more advanced swords. So up here this is the high-end item. It's actually a glaive in the sword line, basically. That is how you progress for the most part.
The little blue and yellow ones.
So blue and yellow. Blue is gathering. So if I gather materials, I will progress here. And then this is lumberjacking, stone gathering, mining, skinning, and gathering fiber from the world, plant materials, basically. And this is farming. I don't know if you've seen the farming system. Would you be interested in that as a sidetrack?
Sure.
I should probably, before we jump in there,
show me the stuff that's more important to you guys.
Quickly explain the skill system, because this comes with the Destiny board. So you don't get abilities from Destiny board. You only get the ability to use items, but the items themselves carry spells on them. So this halberd that I have comes with a quick strike, a backflip, and a charged throw. So currently I can throw it. We're still working on the abilities. And
those are picked when they forge weapons. So each of those slots is a choice of like 3 or 4 different spells. And you're like, I want this.
And that's done at the crafting process.
That's crafting. Yeah, that happens at the crafting process. Although there is now a way of reforging the item. If you're not happy with the spells, you can go to.
And in fact, if we go and is this guy, yeah?
Yeah. If you go to this guy, you can drag the weapon in there.
Reforge. Repair.
Pick.
Class repair is fine. Needs to be fully repaired. It's fine. I have lots of money. Oh, that takes a while. It's got more instant spells on it. So. And then this will also let you see. So
you can reforge it, choose different spells. So I could now say I don't want the backflip. I want the lunge, and the throw sounds weird, so I'm gonna go for push. And then reforge it. Costs some silver that I can gather from mobs, and then the item has new abilities.
What kind of gear like that is looted? Like, is it...
Pretty much none. We have initially in the early game a few items that are being looted, but typically what you loot from mobs is silver and crafting materials. So the more advanced weapons require, for example, gems. Gems are no longer harvested from the real world or from the world. They're found on mobs. Mobs drop runes as well, the more advanced ones. So you need these to craft the highest end items.
So rather than like a raid dropping just like a big axe, they'll drop the thing you need to make your big axe.
So you still got reason to actually want.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You absolutely need to do them for
But we want a reason to have crafting. Crafting is one of the central pillars, and we don't want to replace crafting with item drops. We want to tie the item drops into crafting in the end.
And then the abilities you pick, you can see on the side here.
Yeah, so now my abilities have changed. This is like my set depending on what I have equipped. If I unequip one of these items, for example my halberd, a bunch of my abilities go away, and I can replace them with a different weapon. For example, this healing staff, which will turn me into a healer. Now we can maybe quickly cover the personal islands and farming.
Cool.
So, as we said, did we talk about the estates and stuff yet? Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. You're not in King's Market.
Your island you can buy in a city. It's local to the city, so you can only access it from the city where you have it. So I can travel to my island in King's Market here, and this is my personal instance space. Through the access rights system, I can share it with other players. So I can say, I want, I don't know, this guy to be able to build something on my island. I can revoke that right and so on. And
so as far as in the world map, everybody's essentially on the same island, but it's instanced for everybody.
Yeah.
Is that what it works?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Well, I mean, you can basically visit each other's instances, right? I could be here with a friend, but generally...
Is the layout pretty much the same for everybody?
Yeah. So generally we're all in the same. Why do we have the islands? Well, we'll have a one world approach. And we have a bunch of players who want to play the game, and we don't have infinite building space. And we realized that while we could provide infinite building space by making really large zones of empty building area, it doesn't satisfy the player's need for it looking good, and it doesn't satisfy the transport route distance. So we decided to go for these instance islands for your personal housing, where players can live out the fantasy of building up their own house. They're economically not super important. Like, you can build crafting buildings here, but because you can't share them with other players really well, they're not that significant. But if you really want to, you can also set up your own crafting stuff here. What you're actually supposed to be, or what the most important thing that's happening here though, is farming, and that's what we're here to quickly show you. I don't think we've demoed this before, so bear with me. I can put a farm on this land, which again is a construction site. I will quickly complete that. And then you have a basic farm here. You can get seeds from a guy down here who's giving you access to some seeds. Initially you can only plant carrots, so I'm just gonna do that. Oh, I think I bought my whole inventory full of carrot seeds. That might have been a bit zealous. But works like placing buildings. I basically can build up my little farm here, and then I'll have carrots that sprout and grow.
How long does it take them to grow?
These grow over 1.5 hours right now. So this is kind of the gameplay that you do engage in daily. It's something you can do on the side. It's something to enliven the player island, and it's actually a way that the more casual player can connect with the super hardcore, because the food that you produce through farming is actually required to power the entire economy. Every building needs food, and this is again a principle of the Albion player-run economy. Everything that is created somewhere gets destroyed somewhere. The food that you make can be used to power guild territories, so you always, even as a beginner, you have people who are buying your food because they need it to run their guild territories. And I think guild territories are the next thing I'll be showing you. I could show a lot more about farming. There's mount growing. You can feed the food to little horses, and then you can grow them up and turn them into mounts, and so on and so on. There's cows you can milk. There's alchemy.
Mounts can be killed, can't they?
The mounts are basically, if you die with your mounts, they can die as well, pretty much. But now maybe to the big driver behind the whole thing, the guild versus guild system and the PvP zone. Let's find a nice one. Pikefoot. Can you do a quick time check?
11:22.
What does that mean for us? How much time do we have?
8 minutes.
Okay. So this is a typical forest. This is a typical PvP zone territory. Landscape's a little bit more rough, and there's more advanced resources here. And what you can find in these zones are these little squares. These are designated guild territories that are currently neutral and unclaimed. I'll jump to one to show you what they look like when they're claimed. So there's always, in every unclaimed one, there's this ruined tower which serves as the control point. When I want to claim it, I have to choose some times where this territory will be vulnerable, where it can be attacked by others.
Okay.
And this is so that the guild can say, we will be online to defend our territory at these times during the day. Once you've built it up, there's a little placeholder here. There'll be a mage up there who is maintaining a magic barrier around the territory. Okay. So only your guild members can freely enter and go through here. So basically, if I'm being pursued in PvP and there's a huge horde of people behind me, I can run in here and I'm safe from pursuit. Okay. I can also, there's always some materials in here as well, but most importantly, there's typically building ground. So this is all building ground where my guild can basically set up a base in the middle of a PvP zone where they can do crafting, which is more efficient if it's done out in the PvP zone. But, and this is important, like I said earlier, you always need material from the safe zone as well. So there is a reason to transport between safe and your territory.
And then people attack you.
And then people attack you, yeah, because there's a limited amount of these. So every single one of here, these clickable things is a territory. And they all have neighbors. These lines show you which territory is connected to which one. And if you own a neighboring territory, you can declare attacks on your neighbor. You have to choose one of the times that they said they're attackable. Then an attack gets scheduled. Each team basically is shown you're being attacked or you are attacking. Please choose 5 players that will fight the fight. The guild leader basically has the final say in this. And when the time comes and you're in the right place, you have to be local, players get teleported into the fight and everyone who's in the territory gets moved out. Then there's about a half-hour fight over the territory. That works kind of like a battlefield objective control game where there's 3 objectives, and if you hold them, you reduce the enemy team's ticket. If you win this fight, you will gain control over their well, if you're the attacker and you win this fight, you will gain control over the defender's territory. Unless it's actually building territory, then it has a few more lives. So basically, if you see here, I have 3 defender points.
Okay.
Once I've lost the last one of these, I will lose the territory. Reason for this is we think that if you've spent weeks building up your territory, we don't want you to lose it in one fight. You should have more chances to defend it. And this is the big game for the guilds. Obviously, they try to take as much of the world under control as they can, take control of crafting capacity so that they can be depending on what the guild wants to do. If they want to be the best crafters, then they get these territories to set up super crafting facilities. If they just want to be the best PvPers, then they build up, they choose the locations more on where can we really find people to kill. But yeah, that's the
How
big.
do you earn the defender points?
They just regenerate over time.
Okay.
So if you lose one, I think 48 hours later or something, you can find.
And the vulnerability window, is that for just an hour, or is it to match with the 30?
You have to choose 4 times in a day right now, but we're still playing with the details of the system. So
Are they for an hour?
there were 4 hours. Yeah, an hour time
4
slot.
times, okay.
Yeah, 4 hours during the.
4 1-hour slots.
Apart from that, there are a lot of open world objectives. So we don't want the guilds to hang out in these territories. We want them to leave. So gathering resources is the most obvious one, but Albion's always full of PvE opportunities as well, right? There's always camps of creatures that you can hunt for silver, and I guess the most imposing one of those we have right now is in Hollowheart. I finally need to remember that dungeon name now.